Alright, what's up guys? Today I'm going to do a review of my 2016 Mustang GT with the automatic transmission. So I've had this car for almost a year now, and I have to say, honestly, I really love it. Every day I still look back at it, you know, after I park the car. I really like it, and wanted to share some of the things that I really like the most. Wanted to share some of the things that I don't like about it, and just kind of give a review so anyone out there who's looking to buy a Mustang can kind of get an owner's perspective to see what I think of the car after putting on just about 15,000 miles over the course of a year. So first of all, exterior. So throwing some exterior shots here, but basically the exterior of the car is what really sold me. You know, I honestly think it looks great from every single angle, and there's really not much that I would change about it. Which is funny because, you know, when the Mustangs first came out, the new version in 2015, everyone was saying, oh, it looks like a Fusion coupe, and I have to say I was inclined to agree with them. I did not like it at all. It was just way too different from what I was used to seeing. It didn't look like a muscle car. It looked too much like a sports car, and I didn't like it. And on top of that, I was kind of a Camaro guy, you know, during that generation. So the 2010 to 2015 Camaro, I liked a lot better than the Mustangs during that generation, during that same time frame. So I was pretty sure once I heard that the 6th gen Camaro was coming out for 2016, I was pretty sure, I was like, oh, that's perfect, that's what I'm gonna get. There's no way I'd get a Mustang. And then, you know, the Camaro came out and I just wasn't impressed with it at all. It was really tough because I really wanted that car to be great, and I just didn't like it. I don't like the front end, I don't like the headlights, I don't like the rear. The visibility issues, you know, are still there, which, you know, say what you will about that. So I wasn't impressed, and honestly, over time, the Mustang just really grew on me. And again, like I said, I truly think it looks great from every angle. I really love the daytime running lights, you know, the LED, the little gills, the 3 slots that are running. I think that looks really aggressive. I love the long hood, you know, with the little hood vents. You know, it's kind of mild, it's not in your face about it, but you can tell it's there. And there's just little subtle things that just make it look really, really attractive in my eyes. I think that the profile of the car, you know, if you look at it from the side, that to me is what really sets it apart. The tail lights, which are a little bit three-dimensional, you can actually fit your hand in between the tail lights. That's really cool. So there's a lot of things about the car that, you know, I just find a lot better than the competition in terms of the exterior looks. And what's really cool to me is, you know, when you see it out on the road, it's really wide, especially when you're behind the car. The rear arches kind of flare out a little bit, and it just looks really aggressive. The stance is just really mean. And not sure if you can tell in the video, but every time you look in your wing mirrors here, you can kind of see, you know, the rear arches bulging out, and it just reminds you that you're driving, you know, a high-powered vehicle, high-powered rear-wheel drive vehicle. And I love that. I really love it. So can't say enough good things about the exterior. It's definitely not everybody's cup of tea, but for me, I love it. So moving on to the interior, you know, this is something that Mustangs get a bad rap for. People say, you know, oh, it's just filled with Ford plastic. It's like Fisher-Price plastic. It's just horrible. Can never live in that. And is there a lot of plastic in here? Yeah, but I don't know. It's really not that bad to me. I got the base model, so I did not get the premium package. So obviously, interior quality and materials really weren't that important to me. I didn't really care. You know, I wanted something that had performance and was relatively cheap, since that's what I could afford at the time. And again, I'm not unhappy with the interior. I love the seats. I have the cloth seats. They're really comfortable. The side bolsters really hold you in. They are really great on long trips too. So that's really all I needed. You know, I didn't really need the navigation and the leather everywhere. So to me, it gets the job done, and I think it's nice. It's certainly not a luxury vehicle, right? I think it's about expectations. If you come from a luxury brand that has, you know, soft touch materials and leather just everywhere, yeah, this probably isn't gonna seem that nice. But for me, I was coming from a Dodge Avenger, and that interior was horrible. I did not like that interior at all, and this is leaps and bounds above that. So is it the nicest interior in the world? No, but it gets the job done, and I don't mind it at all. So I really like it. One thing I really like about the interior is the gauge cluster. They're really big. You know, just 2 gauges, really simple. You got your tach and your speedometer. Really simple font. I think they nailed that. Looks really good. In the middle between the 2 gauges, you've got a LCD display, which is basically just tells you a variety of information. It can tell you your miles per gallon. It's got some track apps in there, which are really cool. So you can do some 0 to 60 timing, you can do quarter-mile timing, stuff like that. Really cool. Definitely wish that they had a digital speedometer, but I guess, you know, their thought was they're kind of trying to keep it old school, so I can respect that. Not a deal breaker, but it's nice to have. Definitely makes it look modern. I will say that much. Coming over to the center stack, so yeah, this is where you're going to see that there's a lot of plastic, especially in the base version. Yes, it's a sea of plastic, and again, to me that's okay. Some people, that's not their cup of tea. If you get the premium version, it does come with, you know, the large touchscreen. You know, you get your navigation. You know, you can control the air conditioning, the heat, seating, pretty much what you'd expect. There's obviously a bunch of videos about that, so I won't go in depth into that, what that offers. But again, the center stack doesn't bother me because, again, I didn't really have expectations for having, you know, a super luxury vehicle. There's a button for everything. It's pretty simple to figure out. So again, yeah, there's a lot of plastic. The screen in the middle is basically just for your radio, and it does have, you can sync with your phone wirelessly, so it does have Bluetooth connectivity, so I use that a lot. Other than that, I think that the interior is really attractive looking. Again, some of the materials perhaps are not that great. There is a lot of plastic, as I've said, but the overall look and feel and fit and finish, I think, is fine. If you want something with a lot more leather and soft touch materials and less plastic, you know, you're gonna have to pay a lot more money. You know, I think people always say, you know, talk about the BMW M3, M4, and that has a nice interior, don't get me wrong. It's, especially if you get the full leather, it's nice, it's really nice. But to me, it's not double the price type of nice, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it's a step above, but to me, I couldn't justify the price of that, at least at this time. Would I love to have one? Sure. But yeah, I think that this car for the price is really a great bang for your buck. The steering wheel, you know, again, wrapped in leather, really nice. It has really small bolsters at the 10 and 2 position. Something that you can't even really tell is there most of the time. I do wish that they had a bit more of an aggressive steering wheel. Definitely something that I think can be improved. I know that this has been said, you know, in other reviews on the YouTubes before, but you can't really get a great grip. You can't get a 9-3 grip on the steering wheel. Your fingers can't really wrap around the steering wheel fully. Your fingers touch the paddle. Unless you have really tiny hands, you can't wrap your hands around the steering wheel properly. And it's really annoying. I wish that they had a better steering wheel where you could grip it a lot better. So that's definitely something, that's actually one of my main things that I dislike about the car is the steering wheel. Obviously, day-to-day driving, completely fine. It's comfortable. It's fine to use daily driving. I think if I were to take this to the track or something, I'd want something that gave me a bit more confidence. But again, it's not a deal breaker. It's not, and I think that's something important to note is that I'm probably never gonna take this car to the track. So I'm looking at this from a daily driver perspective. I'm not looking at this from a pure performance track-oriented perspective. This is my daily driver. I commute to this to work every single day. Probably drive about 40 miles a day in the car. So I really think it is a great, commuter car. Which brings me to the next point, which is, how is the car on a daily commute? Is it livable on a daily commute? And the answer is absolutely. I don't have the performance package. The automatic transmission doesn't come with the performance package, although I believe they are changing that for the 2018 refresh. The performance package, might be a little bit stiffer, so take from that what you will, but even the performance package should be fine to daily drive. Honestly, it soaks up the bumps well. It's, people act like, oh, it's a sporty car, it's a pony car, muscle car, call it whatever. It's really stiff and uncomfortable, and that's just not the case. This is not a pure sports car. This is made to be driven, and it's comfortable. I've gone on short road trips with this car. There was one time where I drove 3 hours to this event, mostly just cruising on the highway for 3 hours. You get there, and I had to wait in traffic to get into the event for literally another hour and a half. So I was literally just riding the brake for an hour and a half. And the car did fine, 5-hour trip basically, a little less than 5-hour trip, and each way. And it did fine. It's completely fine. I use this every day. I live in the Northeast, and I drive this in the winter, and we haven't had a terrible winter this year, but I have thrown some snow tires on here, winter tires, and they work great. I haven't gotten stuck. We've only had snowstorms where we've had a few inches of snow. I think the most we had was about 6 inches, and I didn't drive in 6 inches deep, but I have driven in about 3-4 inches in, on some back roads, and is completely fine. Just don't drive like an idiot and you'll be fine. That was a big thing when I was getting the car. Everyone's like, oh, how are you gonna drive it in the winter? And I'm like, slowly, it's not that hard. Like, I'm gonna get winter tires and I'm gonna drive slowly, and it's gonna be fine. And what do you know, it's completely fine. Everybody around me who doesn't really know about cars acted like, I'm gonna be stuck on the side of the road every time that the temperature's, under 80 degrees. And it's being sarcastic, but it's just not true. You can drive this every day. Sure, I wouldn't recommend driving this in 6 inches, but you probably shouldn't be driving in 6 inches anyways. So to me, it's really not a problem. On another note, honestly, I did not buy this car for fuel economy, and I would doubt that anyone who gets this car is buying it for fuel economy. But as you can see on my trip gauge here, I've gone on this trip almost 2,500 miles, and I'm averaging just about 22 miles per gallon. And to me, that's pretty damn good. I didn't really expect I was going to get that much, so I'm happy with that. I definitely wish that the tank was a little bit bigger. It's a 16-gallon tank, So the range is, you know, right around 320, 330 miles per tank, which isn't bad at all. But again, if you're doing some spirited driving, you know, you're not going to get 22 miles per gallon, and you'll drain your fuel pretty fast. So lastly, you know, just want to talk about overall performance. You know, yes, the Camaro is a better performing car, stock for stock. It will definitely beat this car on a track. It will beat it in a straight line. You know, the new Camaro, stock for stock, I think there's no avoiding that. It's a better performing car. But again, I don't really care. You know, on the street, you're not really going to notice it anyways, so that's a non-issue for me. And I really think that, you know, all the other intangible things, all the other, you know, subjective things make it worth it. I think the looks are a lot better. I honestly like the interior of the Mustang a lot better. I like the sound of the engine a lot better. So to me, the few tenths of a second in performance, you know, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. You know, everyone talks about performance and 0 to 60 and quarter mile and all that. And yeah, it's cool to talk about, and yeah, it's important because you want a car that's fast. But let's face it, I mean, who buys a car purely for performance? I mean, if you're gonna do that, then, you know, just get a older used, you know, project car or something, you know, and just twin turbo it and make a bazillion horsepower, and, you know, you can do that. And besides, obviously, the Mustang is one of the most modded cars that are out there. So there's a lot of mods that are available that you can make this thing pretty damn fast. So I don't know. To me, the performance, it's definitely enough. You can't even use the stock performance on the street, you know, most of the time. I mean, yeah, sure. You know, when you're accelerating on on-ramps, put it in second gear and floor it. It's an amazing feeling, you know, and it never gets old. It really doesn't. You know, every time you step on it in first, second, or third gear, it pushes you back in your seat, and it's great. I mean, we're gonna pass this guy right now, and we're just gonna take off. And so I wasn't even on it for that long, and again, that guy is just way back in my rearview mirror, and it never gets old. It really never gets old. So the power for me is great. You know, look, I'm a car guy first and foremost. I'm gonna want more power eventually. That's just how it is. Are you cutting me off, bro? Alright. You can cut me off. He didn't really cut me off, actually. It really wasn't that bad. I'm over exaggerating. But anyways, yeah, I love the power. It still doesn't get old. Let's face it, you can always be faster. And I'm gonna want a car that's faster someday, but for right now, I love it, and it doesn't get old, and it puts a smile on my face every single day. Lastly, I want to talk about some of the things I dislike, which you actually may notice right now. When the sun is really low in the sky, since the hood is so long, the sun reflects off the hood, and I am being blinded right now. I can literally not see a thing. It is so bad. It's so bad. And thank God we're in some shade. So again, it's drivable, but it is really annoying. And you know, I love the long hood, like I said, looks wise. So it's a trade-off. Sometimes when the sun's low in the sky, you can't see, guys. That's just how it is, because Mustang. Maybe that's why there's all these memes about, you know, Mustangs crashing and running over people. It's because they can't see. It's that V8, baby. V8's too big. You can't see anything over that hood. I'm probably biased. I love the car, and you know, I'm really happy with my purchase. Now I'm gonna make some more videos about you know, some of the things I've done to the car, some of the things I'm planning. Excuse me. Some of the things I'm planning to do. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, silly me, literally, holy shit. What the did you see that shit? What the fuck was that? Holy shit, the sun. Alright. The thing I dislike the most about the car, how could I forget this? The exhaust sound. The exhaust sound from the factory is so bad. It's inexcusable. I literally, so bad. And this is coming from the guy, this is my first, you know, V8 car, right? Again, I came from a Dodge Avenger. I was like, oh, stock exhaust is gonna be fine. It's gonna be better than what I had. It's gonna be enough for me. And for the first few months, I convinced myself that the stock exhaust was okay. It's not okay, guys. It's way too muted. I really hate it. I really hate it. So I'm gonna be fixing that shortly. Right now, I do have the Ford Racing X pipe installed, which replaces the resonator. But yeah, the stock exhaust is just way too muted. The resonator is big, bulky, muffles the sound way too much. The mufflers themselves, you know, decent mufflers in terms of fit and finish, but way too quiet. I was like, you know, it's more refined car, it's more sporty, it's not supposed to be that loud. Yeah, you get over that pretty quick, and you're like, it just needs to be louder, you know? V8s are gonna be going away someday, RIP, and I want to hear my V8 while I can, so I'm gonna be remedying that very shortly. Even the X pipe isn't enough for me, and again, I don't even want my car that loud. But yeah, that's by far the worst thing. If you buy this car, just budget in, you know, $1,000, $1,500 to get a catback exhaust, because it's required. Seriously, it is. I really wish they had a better exhaust from the factory. I really do. But anyways, guys, that is pretty much the end of the video here. Like I said, can't say enough good things about the car. Completely happy with my purchase. And if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. And have a great day.